On behalf of Muhammad Siddiq AJ Academy of Architecture, I welcome Professor Muhammad Haris, our Dean and Advisor, and Professor Muhammad Idris, a Principal, and Professor Satish Kumar T, our HOD and Convener, Professor Samad, Design Chair, the architects and faculties of students. Today's webinar is about behavioral architecture and will be conducted by architect Swetha and myself, Anceline, architect Anceline will be moderating this session. So a brief introduction about architect Swetha. She completed her BArch from College of Engineering Trivandrum in 2006 and a master's from SRM Institute of Science and Technology, and she's a gold medalist in her master's. And she's currently doing her PhD from NIT Trichy, and she has 15 years of teaching experience. And right now, she's doing a research on behavioral architecture and campus design. I welcome Swetha to this webinar, and I welcome you all for attending this session. Yes, Swetha, you can start. I request you all to turn on your video and mute yourselves while you're attending this session. And Swetha, ma'am, you can proceed. Oh, I think ma'am is having some technical issues. You just messaged me.
Sorry, there was
that's all. Yeah.
Okay. I'll share my PPT.
Okay.
Okay. Can you see? Can you see the?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So regarding behavioral architecture, it's like, what do we say? We'll all be wondering what is behavioral architecture, why is it required, and where is its applications, where is it used, or where its use is, how it is going to be used. Okay. So basically, what I want to address is what is architecture for? Is it like, is it for the people, or what is architecture? When we were, architecture, if we go into the beginnings, when we see the history itself, it's very, it was very broad, and everything was under architecture. Right now, we have different streams, interdisciplinary streams and all, where we are taking into consideration each and every aspect. So it's basically, if we say that it is an enclosure in which people live their lives, if we are just concerned about that enclosure where people are living, where people are experiencing their lives, so is it so? Is it for people? So then, if it is for people, then why we have to address it as behavioral architecture, not as architecture for people or human architecture or just architecture? So if we say regarding behavioral architecture, it's like a behavior suggests that people in action will do things with, like, we talk to people, we interact with people So what happens is like it suggests like an awareness of social fabric of people. Like we are in a society where we have to interact with people, and when we are interacting, there is something like the way we behave. The way we behave in a family is totally different. The way we behave in a society is different. The way we behave when we are alone, it is different. So together it's like moving together dynamically in time. So whatever our behavior is there, it is varying according to the setting or our environment. So if we say that our building static, because earlier when we used to design, we used to think that buildings are static. And if we are considering that buildings are static, then do we consider that people are static too? So it's generally like, it is a physical space which accommodates a person dimensionally. Like you're in a space where dimensionally you're going to accommodate his needs. How the person, what are his needs? What does he want? What will make him comfortable? All these things we are being accommodated in this, and yet only the individual behavior in that space can validate the design. It's just like, you're designing a walkway, okay, in a garden space or in a room, okay. It doesn't mean that you're okay, it doesn't mean that you're going to walk in the prescribed way. The architects, as an architect, we design certain what do you say, pavements and all, and people generally take shortcuts. If they are not using that, then your design has not been validated. So that is what, if you consider the behavior that they are going to take the shortcuts and make that shortcut as a pathway, then it might validate your design. So that is what, if we think that people are static, then this might not happen. If we are thinking that people will behave, will move around in the space, then it is totally different. So what does this environment mean? So if we are saying that how people interact, where they are interacting along with the environment, along with people, with the building, with the space, what does this environment mean? So if we take from the broadest sense, like ecology to a workstation, like, whatever is there around us, right from the biggest scene to the narrowest scene, if we are taking this, how an individual will respond to an environment is totally different, and it is very interesting. So there is a study also, like environment psychology, which studies how people interact. It has been, it's not like, behavioral architecture is something which has been come into scene right now. It's not like that. It has been there since 1970s. Before that itself, people used to work on this. Environmental psychology was there as a interdisciplinary, what do you say, science, where they used to study how people are interacting in a space. So based on interesting spaces, this study also becomes interesting. So if we say behavior, what is a behavior? So we can say that how a person responds or what emotions he is having during that space. So basically, like when you say a person is behaving very rudely, okay, you take that person into, we have these Japanese gardens, the Zen gardens. If we take that person, and do you think the environment has an impact on him? Will he get serenity, or can he be in a what do you say, transcend space? Like whether he can be in a emotion where he can, that rudeness or his attitude can change. So ultimately, studies have proven that a space which the person interacts has an impact on his behavior. If we say this, where basically in a institution or in a medical institution where a person is going to be admitted and he's having severe health problems if we introduce just a small plant or a small green space where he can view from the place where he's resting. If he can view something like that, it has a tremendous change in his recovery also. So that is also one thing. So behavior, it's something like where we respond and how emotional we get. Similarly, if we are exposed, when we say color psychology, when we are exposed to colors which are very what do you say, like red, black, these has certain impact on our health. So the way we behave also will be totally different when we are exposed to these kind of colors. So okay, so the main thing, like when you have to encounter an unknown space, like you're comfortable in your comfort zone, and you have to shift. Like if you say you're in a room. If you're staying in a room, if you're a student, you're staying in your room, and you have to suddenly shift to some other room. Okay, what is it that worries you? If you're in a building, if you're in a residence where you have to shift from that resident to another residence, neighborhood, city, or even a nation. So what is it which worries us? What is it which worries us when we say that we are suddenly shifting from one place where we are already we are very comfortable, and then we have to shift to certain space. What is it that which will make us worry, which makes us anxious, or sometimes even a fear is also there? What is it which we think? Yeah. So it's mainly safety. Okay, even when we see the safety, there are two fonts also, the one with a darker one and the one with lighter one. These also has an impact. Okay, so basically the first thing which comes into our mind is safety. Okay, whether I'm going to shift to some other room, whether that room is safe or not, whether it is the way I'm comfortable over here, whether it is comfortable there or not. If you are going to some residence, we'll check who are our neighbors, what is it going to be, whether it is a very good society or not, what is the neighborhood which I'm going into, whether I'll get everything or not, or whether it is completely safe. When I'm shifting to some other city, what is the crime rate? That is what we'll say. If we are going to some, basically, if we are going to some other city, we'll think that whether it is safe. If it is a girl, we'll think whether it is safe for girls or not, or whether it is safe for my family or not. All these things comes into our mind. If we go for some other nations, like from one country to another country, same thing we have. This safety is the first thing which will make our behavior. We have certain preconceptions about, if we know about certain space or neighborhood or a country or a city, if we have some preconceptions, our attitude towards that space will totally change. Till we stay there, then okay, well, let's see some examples. See, this is a war zone. So, safety in what aspects? This is a war zone. Whether this is safe or this is safe. So, it depends on, our preconceptions. This is a slum area. So, and people are just living.
Excuse me,
Yeah.
Shweta, your slides are not moving actually. We are still on the opening slide.
Oh, okay. Uh, one second. One second. I'll just check that. Okay. 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 Uh, One second. It's not moving. uh, I think slideshow is not working, so I'll better increase the screen size and see. Is this okay? This is fine. Can you see now?
Yes, we can see it now. It's visible.
Okay. So should I go back to all the slides, or I'll just continue with this?
Yeah,
Okay.
you can.
So it's like as I gave, these are the introductions. So what are the questions? What is architecture? Why behavioral architecture, and are buildings static? And what is behavior? Like, behavior, response, and emotions. All these things come together. So when we move, safety is one aspect which I told already. So if we check these things, this is a scene where, like, this is this scene where there is a war, I mean, post-war happening, and then you have a slum. So our conception, and people are, they are just living on some tracks, they are just staying there. At one point of time, the train comes there, but still they're used to it. So what is it when we address safety? Is it the war zone or the slums where we feel unsafe? So it is based on our perception. A person who is staying there, if we are used to it, then we'll think that it is normal. So our behavior towards that setting also will change. A person who is staying in a war zone will have his own psychology. The way he behaves towards a situation, or towards a place where where we say that it is safe, is totally different. So this is one more example. These are some neighborhoods of Detroit where in 2009 and 2013 itself, there is a total difference, because people have abandoned their houses and left because of certain issues, social issues. So if you say that, okay, we have a proper earlier, if we go to the previous slide, we can see that they don't have a proper housing, but their environment was unsafe. But over here, you already have a proper space to live in. You have all the facilities, everything is there, but the society or the way people are interacting, that has had a very big influence on them. So it was considered to be unsafe. So they kind of started moving out of this space. So whether it is a surrounding or is it a building? So if we say that, okay, surrounding and buildings are kind of, we are providing safe space, then is this like, if we say that from the slums, this is the famous Dharavi slums. See, people are here, they are safe over here, and you take them to some other space, you are giving them a high-rise apartment, and you can see, won't they prefer that our previous shacks, and this is also similar? They had more privacy. They, even if it was a small space, they had their own kind of livelihood, the culture, or the closeness towards that space. And this is also totally like, you're changing it into something else. The user has not been considered in this space. The designs which we are doing, no, we have to think about the way people behave around this space. If we have thought about it, it would have been much better. Say, if we say that this is a metro station, okay, so if we say that, okay, see, there is so much of surveillance and all, there are CCTVs, there are so many things. Luckily I got this pic without people. So if we say that, do you feel like do you feel like, if we take Chennai also, do you feel so safe under metro? Or if you take that Velacheri to beach, station, the elevated corridor, if you go to those stations, do you feel safe over there? Obviously, if you have spaces like these, where lighting is very, kind of what you say, it's very less, people aren't there, and if people are not there and it is not frequently used, do you think the spaces are safe? So even by providing proper infrastructure and the environment is there, still if people are not using it, then it's considered unsafe, right? Okay, so we have the classic example of Guggenheim Museum of Wilbur. So here also you think that it's like an architectural marvel. Okay, and can you see the space where we have this space? Okay, these are all very very fancy to see. It's like monumental scale. It has been done into monumental scale, but there is a particular time, there is a particular flow, like when we are going through this space, if it is not being used by people, or if you go to this place on a weekday, generally Saturdays, Sundays, or weekends, if we are going, this place is very well utilized, there are people moving around and all. What about the weekdays? If people are not utilizing and very minimal people are there, will it be considered safe? So there have been few incidents where theft, and even people were afraid to use this on weekdays. So that's the reason why I have taken this example. So yeah, so when we come to safety, it's all the perception, how we utilize, how we get used to it, how we are adaptable to the space. If you're a total stranger, it is totally different. And if you're a local person who is using these spaces, everything, like in and out of that space, and then like you have to avoid these kind of spaces, you have to be in this particular spaces. So that is like when you're used to it, you're used to that culture, and the same aspects, if those things are there in your design also, that will make the person more comfortable and feel more safe. Okay, so basically behavior is the outcome of how the environment and user or user to user transaction happens. So when I interact with the design, when I'm interacting with the space, when I'm sitting there, or I'm standing there, or I'm walking around that space, if that transaction is happening, your behavior will totally change towards it. Okay, if I'm like I'm having I'm doing a morning walk every day, I'm going through this same pathway, and I'm interacting with that payment, like not interacting in the same, literally I'm speaking to them. It's like the transaction, I'm walking there, I'm using the pathway, I'm sitting in one space, I'm looking over some view, and then user to user transaction, like somebody is coming and I'm saying hello to them. So if these kind of things happens, what eventually I'll feel very intimate to that space, I'll feel like I have a sense of ownership. So generally what happens, I will make sure that there is no damage towards that space. So when that means that ignorance, like I'm not ignoring that space. Everything which deteriorates is through ignorance. If we kind of ignore that space, then it is not well functioned, or whatever our design, it is not being validated. So architectural knowledge, it's always complex, because earlier it was certain, like 4 or 5 fields. Now it is like you have you name anything, you can see architects in those places. It's like it's a disciplinary as well as interdisciplinary. It's like you're into interior design, you're into product design, you're into environment psychology, and many other things, set design, so many things. It's not just in a particular space or particular thing which you're there. And it's more like, if you say, and this kind of knowledge is even more complex and advanced. So basically it is ecologically oriented and user friendly, new physical environments. It's like, when you're creating something, if you're into these interdisciplinary, and if you have some persons, like, we kind of design as a team. When we are doing this like as a team, we can, generally when we earlier there were like, any um, public buildings or public works were there was an architect, there'll be a civil engineer, and then a contractor. Now these days when we have any government projects happening, we have people from various disciplines: an architect, a civil engineer, um, project manager, and then an environmental ecologist. Okay, and then a person who is trained in um, evaluating this environmental impact aspects like EIA. So many people are involved in that project, and each person will give their feedback. So ultimately, if we actually take their response and consider it, and not just think about the project alone, if we think about the user also, we kind of get these kind of environments, physical environments. And for this also, when we talk about interdisciplinary, the Academy of Neuroscience of Architecture in San Diego, they are, using research, and they are targeting into understanding human reaction for the built environment, so that they want to see how these built environment have their impact on the neurobiological conditions, perception of art and architecture. Like, in if we have certain spaces where it has been pretty well designed, it's a piece of art or architecture, how a person reacts to it, what are the reactions happening in his mind, how do he perceive these built environments, that is what they are studying. So ultimately, when we kind of say that what are the things which are required, so when we are shaping some healthy and user friendly environments, we have to follow certain things. If the when we are building an urban environment, it is supposed to ensure comfort and safety. These two things are which has to be guaranteed, whether it is looking good or not. The first thing which you have to ensure is comfort and safety of the user. Okay, and when we are building a city, its social conditioning is to ensure the clarity of the system that guarantees safety, social order, and aesthetics. It means like there is a social order, there is safety, and even aesthetics, beauty is also there. Then that city is considered to be the most beautiful city, where we would want to go and stay there. Okay, so if any one of these, if it has to be transparent. Mainly whatever we are doing, no, it has to be transparent. It doesn't mean that you're doing very big spaces, and then uh, if you ignore the user completely, and if you don't have empathy towards the user, then it is of no use. And when we come to a building, obviously you have to ensure safety and comfort, and satisfy the aesthetic needs too. So these are the things which you have to kind of think whenever we are designing, whether it is sustainable or not. Okay, I'm not saying that you shouldn't use sustainable technology, it has to be there, but basically, what do you say, these things are our basic needs, like how we say roti, kapda, or makan. The same way, these are the things which has to be taken care when we want some user friendly and healthy environments. Okay, yeah, I'll give certain examples. Like you can see over here, these things, that human and environment transaction here. what you can see is the visual element. There is a visual element and people are utilizing it. So a pathway is coming over there. There are seatings which is focusing towards the visual element, and then people are using it just to come sit there and use that aesthetics, the beauty of nature, and whatever we are doing, no, instead of having so many crammed or lot of design elements, a simple thing, just keeping it simple can capture the whole thing. Another example is one thing. This is just a stone. This is by a sculptor who has used a stone to, he has experimented so much, and he has, he sat into that space. He saw whether it is comfortable or not. So this is something like, you're interacting with nature. You're using that element, natural element, as a part of your design. There is nothing in this. It's simply carved out of a stone. Okay. So how simple a design can be, the way he has used anthropometrics, ergonomics, and this is so convenient also. And it's not like formally you have a seating and then people are interacting over there face to face and all. It's just like, the way the person has to just sit there and then use it. If you had a formal bench, the age group will be restricted. People just want, what you can see here is a bunch of teenagers who are just chilling out over there using this kind of element. So it's more like, much more informal and catering to their needs, how their behavior is, and it's not like they can feel like how I'm staying in my home, I can just sit in this space also and I can feel at home. That kind of space has been brought into an open space. Same thing, visual and interactive elements. You can see there is a bench also, there is a walkway, there is a lawn, you can sit on the lawn, you can just see those elements, and it's an open space. Those the sun shade also is in such a way that it is falling like, morning it covers the whole, morning it is very pleasant, then evening also it is shaded, so it is very pleasant to sit in the evening also. So it kind of depends how, whatever we are designing, if you kind of design a space where you're having intricate lawns, you have super sophisticated benches, so many things as visual elements and all, ultimately you forgot to think about the shade. What happens, it's not like, you can't use it. Then empathy towards the user, it's more like the space which you are providing, it has to be more empathetic. You're thinking about the user. Here the steps, the level of these steps are very low, so they are kind of, they can sit over there, they can use it as steps also. So they're using these space and the shading. These buildings are shading the space. So even in that time, and one more hidden aspect is there. I'll show you. This is the aspect. As you can see, there is a ramp going towards this space, which means that you can take your dog also over there, and that space is wide enough for a person to use a wheelchair also. So there are small details, very small details, which can make you think about your user. That is what is there. So when you do a design, what is it that you think? Who is your user? Who's your user? What is that person's needs? Does your design cater to their needs? Or what should we consider? Whether we should consider the needs or the outcome, whether we have to think that it should be functional or whether it should be aesthetically. If it is aesthetically good, is it enough? If you're designing a residence, just imagine, instead of catering to his needs, you're designing something just because of aesthetics. He's spending some lakhs on it, and ultimately he's going to stay there. and doing the maintenance will kind of at first it is very good, like you know it's very beautiful, so you kind of think that it is very beautiful. To maintain that, you have to do so much of work, then it kind of tires them out. So if your needs are satisfied and a small step can give him a satisfaction or comfort, then it's enough. That's enough. And so, what is the link between the design and behavior of a person? So, is it very easy to um, kind of what do you say? Is it very easy to design knowing the behavior of a person? Can you actually know what is the behavior of a person? How he will? How do you kind of determine? How do you kind of know what is the link? How does that person? I am designing a space where I'm providing a seating space, but that person is not going to sit there. Why is that person not going to sit there? If I'm designing for this kind of person, if it's a residence, it's very easy. You can easily know their behavior. You just have to interact, because many architects kind of do that. Even before, they just don't get the requirements. They kind of go speak to those clients. They kind of go for a dinner, then they'll see how these people are behaving. They go to their house, how they are living there. They kind of interact. That's what I have seen many architects who kind of do these things. I used to think, like, why are they doing all these things? All we have to do is just take their requirements. Why we have to do? We have to go personally and speak to them. Why we have to kind of get friendly towards them and all? You know, when an experienced person does that, no, we won't know. When I was kind of an intern or a junior architect, I didn't know that. Basically, after years, I understood that they kind of do it so that they want to know the client more and know what is his behavior. And then they kind of say that this is what you need. What you gave me, the requirements, is not what your needs are. And they design according to what they have understood, what they have observed from the user. That is how their designs are being. Even when we see, Sirish Berry, Jay Sima, all these architects, when even now also their clients are more happy, because they kind of, even if we say Laurie Baker's design, we can't, he is a person who has thought about everybody, not just the user, not just the client. He has thought about the whole society in general. So it's just like, it takes a little bit of effort from our side. So, can we predict their behavior? How do we understand the behavior of a person towards his environment? Because what he does in his space and towards the environment is totally different. And how can we design accordingly? So, there are many ways. But I'll just give an explanation about one method. It's not like a method, it's kind of a theory. Okay, so it's like, if we take about geo-behavioral environment, it's like it's an approach to human geography that attempts to understand human activity in space, place, and environment by studying it at the disaggregate level of analysis, at the level of an individual person. It means an individual person, how he uses his space, place, and environment, he's studying those things. We are analyzing everything, how he's using this space, what is his behavior towards that, and we are analyzing that outcome. We are concluding that, okay, this is what he's doing. At least maximum persons, or maximum percentage of people are using this kind of activity. So there is one thing called integral framework. It's been proposed by Eider Chain. He has, it's been proposed in 1954. Okay, and even during that time, environment psychology was not there. It was and he had this kind of five major elements. Okay, wherever any space you design, you have these five major elements, and based on these, people kind of behave. You can kind of understand. If you can't understand it totally, at least 80% you can understand. So these are the five elements. One is the instigators. Instigators are like stimulate that trigger particular behaviors in any environment. If you take a sitting space anywhere in a park, if you're taking a sitting space, okay, certain things will make you, like maybe a chair or something like that which you have designed, or just a rock. These are some things which will make you think like, oh, there is a chair, I just want to sit over there. So that is making you go and sit there. But if you just imagine, so when you look at that, your goal object or noxians, goal objects and noxians, like when you're looking at it, you will feel that, okay, this is going to make me, I want to sit right now. I'm very tired. I want to sit over there. So I'll get relieved. But next thing is, if there is certain thing like the seat is being chipped off, or it's not properly maintained, it is dirty, then it's like, it's creating more unpleasantness. It is not creating something like, it's not supporting it. Then supports and constraints. These are something like, there is a seating space, you have certain lights, there is a road, or, there are certain elements like pavement is there. So if there is light, even during nighttime also, you can use that. So it is supporting throughout the time, even when there is light and when there is not, this is going to support. So these are called supports. So when you're kind of designing, you want to design a space where I want to make the person sit. The first thing is you provide them with a chair, okay? But it should be in such a way that your object should be that it has to be of minimal maintenance, and it should not have any unpleasantness, okay? So for that, it doesn't mean that you're kind of complicating the things, okay? And then you have to give certain supports, like supporting that space. If you provide a small lamp or light, it will facilitate, it will ensure safety. You have a CCTV or something like that, that will ensure, like, you are being kind of surveillance is there. So you'll feel like, okay, there is a CCTV, so I'm safe over here. Or it can also create another reaction. So, and there are certain things, constraints like restrictions, there is a seating, but there is a rock underneath that, so you can't sit there. There are certain fencing. You want to sit over there, but to go towards that space, you have to go around and then come back. So that is like, kind of, there are supports also and constraints also. So these constraints, if you can kind of minimize, then it will be more useful. So there is another thing called directors. These are something which will tell us what to do and where to go. So it's like, if I'm going to sit there, where can I sit? From a distance itself, I can go and see that this is a space, I can just sit over there. Then you have the global environment, like, which everybody universally accepts that this is kind of the character of that space. So it's just like a generalized characteristics of that environment. If we say that Arctic is very harsh because of those cold climate and all, jungles are wet because of the wet natures, and when we come to high rises, it's made of steel and glass. So that is kind of a preconceptions which we have, like global environment, where we kind of think that this is what is happening, this is where we are going to sit, or this is what we are going to use. If we say that a school has its own particular characteristics, so when we come around, go when we just pass through that school, then we'll say, ah, yeah, this is a school, because you can clearly see that long corridors with spaces, intermediate spaces where you have um, a window, then you have a door, window, door, like that. It's like kind of a characteristics which will say that this is a school. If it is a residence, you can say clearly make out that this is a residence because it has a roof, it has a balcony, it has an entrance, it has a car porch, or all these things. These are kind of characteristics which will make them say that these are you know um, this is the environment, or this is the purpose of this building, this is the purpose of this space. So this is what, in a broader terms, these are the five elements with which we can kind of predict or kind of understand those, uh, understand the behavior of people. So when we think about sitting behavior, as I told earlier also, sitting behavior, here we were speaking about the instigators. Here we don't have any spaces like sitting. Still, people are sitting over here, and then they are comfortable because, you know, uh, just providing a lawn itself is enough for people to sit. And can you see over here a group of children are playing in this sandbox? So it's like, children kind of want to do that. If you just imagine, if you make children to come, and if you just switch the roles, make these students come and sit in the sandbox, and then if the children are going to sit in this lawn, it doesn't suit. So based on their behavior, children want to play. So if you provide a space with the sand, with that proper texture material, if you're catering to those needs, the depth of the sandbox is also very small. So if you're giving this kind of thing, it is very satisfying. It kind of comforts that user. Okay. And the purpose also, parents used to just come here and then leave their kids over there. They have a visual element also. They can just sit on the benches and see their kids play. Similarly, over here also, this group of students were doing a group work, and they kind of bought their own food, everything, and then they're just interacting with themselves and taking a break. Similarly, you can see over here, this is a market space where people are kind of how do you say, they kind of sell their antiques, um, books, old books, so many things they used to sell. Okay. And that too, this is there only on the weekends. This is not there on the weekdays. Only weekends, they kind of set up these things. And all they have to do is, the makeshift tables are there. They have to bring in those things in a truck. They come here, they unload all these things, then they kind of sit over there, spend their Saturdays, spend their weekends over here. And once it's like, evening, they kind of take everything and then they leave to their homes. So that is how it is there. It's not like, particularly you're designing some kind of a seating. It's not like that. All you have to do is provide the right material, space, and design. That's what is required, rather than complicating things. So when we see random spaces, sitting behavior in random spaces, here you can see this is a temple. Okay, and this is one window kind of a thing in that temple fort wall, and the person is just sitting there because it's like, they are tired and they want to sit there. There is shade over here. Instead, they could have sat down also, but he prefers to sit over here, then take a selfie or whatever. He's just relaxing there. Here you can see that people are sketching, and then they have this banyan tree. There is a banyan tree, and they're sitting under that. There is a space for that. And here you can see that this is very low. This seating is very low. You're just sitting, like, you have just provided some 30 centimeters high, and you're just sitting there. It means that in certain cases, people can just lie down in that space also. And it's not like, partial also. There is a cat which is sitting there, and it's just relaxing, and that kid is just going and playing with it. So it's like, it's not just a sitting space. It can also be used as a lying space also, where you can just lie down on that when you don't have a space to kind of sleep. You can use this space. So when we come into certain campuses also, there are certain formal spaces where, you're just putting one seat over here. You can sit in this space also. And there are certain spaces over here where you can see that it is hiding behind the bushes. So the purpose of that seating is lost. Whereas you can see that, during summer, this space is kind of covered. It's been shaded. So people kind of sit in these spaces. If you have to gather students, if they want to sit, they use these kind of spaces. And this is like once the college is ended, they kind of sit on these spaces. You can see that these are being used as an ornamental purpose, but the students are using it for sitting. So it's more like, they kind of adapt, and adaptability is happening. They kind of, whatever is nearby, whatever is for my comfort, I'm using it. That's what is the attitude. So there are two things. One is environmental probabilism and possibilism. So it's like, if you have a backrest, you provide a seating and you have a backrest, what you do is you can sit, you can interact in this way, or you can just sit apart and then say that I'm not interested. So basically, if you take a bench and one person is sitting in one end, he is like, either, and if he is going to speak to somebody, then it's like, he's inviting you to come and sit there. If my behavior is like, I'm saying that I'm not going to, I don't want to interact with anybody, what I'll do is I'll just put my bag or something over there and I'll sit in the center because I don't want to interact with anybody. So I'll just say that this space is for myself. So that is how you can identify that behavior from a normal seating space. Same way over here. See, you have these two people can interact in such a way, or I don't want to interact. If I'm sitting over there, I have to interact. So I don't want to interact. So I'm going to sit on the other side so that we don't interact at all. Okay, or just lie down. Okay, and if somebody else is lying down, I can just use this much of space. We can see in railway stations also, a space where there is no space, but still if there is an inch of space, I'll just go and sit there because we cannot wait for so long. So that is what happens. So these are the things, the probabilism. If you had a support, this kind of interaction is not there. In a campus, students kind of interact for an hour, more than hour, 1 hour, 2 hour, like that. Okay. And when you don't have supports for these things, they kind of support each other through this way. So it's not like, these students have just posed, but actually this behavior was seen in the campus. And there is one more thing. See, you can, if I'm going to study or I just want to read, so the most easiest method is to just put the book on the table and then I can sit on both the sides. So just by giving one small, it's just, granite slab which is being provided over there. And the possibilities are so much that you can you can use that thing as a space for sleeping, for studying, for interacting, so many other things. The possibilities are more. The way, each person behaves in a different way. So yeah, one more thing. So these two images have been taken 10 years apart. Okay. So this is one space where you can see that there is a backrest and another space where there is no backrest. So it doesn't matter. What they are doing is just looking into their cell phones, and the mannerism is also same. The behavior is also same. It's like, this was taken in 2008 and this has been taken in 2018. And the way they are sitting, everything, the behavior is same only. Okay. So all they wanted is a space where they could sit. Whether there is a backrest, whether it is very good or not, even you can see that it is half wet. Still, that person is sitting over there because they are tired. They just want to sit and they want to see that. They can't stand and do that, so they want to sit. So this is the behavior, like, how they behave towards that thing. The mannerism is totally same. Yeah. Here there are two things. This is a story of, like, here when we see this space, this is an what do you say, a court. It's like an indoor court where they can play and all. And what is happening is a screaming workshop. So everybody is sitting over there. The person is going to, he kind of, he'll pass the ball to the person opposite or next. And then he's kind of, where this ball is going, that person has to scream aloud. Okay. So what they wanted to see everybody. And if we have to see everybody, there is only one formation where we can all see each person. That is a circular, this thing where you can see, that 120 degrees, your angle, cone of vision is also satisfied. So they have to sit around in a circle. So they can't draw and all. So what they saw is, this is an internal court and you have a circle already drawn over here. So they just had to make people sit on that line. So that is what, it's just like, this is what I want. And what is required is just a drawing that has been, utilized over here. So it's like we kind of adapt to certain situations. It's not like there is something which has been designed for me, but I kind of, whatever I see around my space, I'm interacting with it. There is a transaction happening between us. So that is what is seen over here. Here you can see that this is a design of a lamp shade or lamp post. Okay. And as you can see, this space, this, what do you say, the support which has been given over here, it has been, if it is, generally if we design, what we do is like we reduce it. Okay. We reduce it. The height will also be reduced and it will be just monumental. But what they have done is like they just increased it to 20 centimeters more, so that people who are utilizing the square can even sit on these spaces. As you can see, there is a person sitting over there. So they are waiting for the tram and they're just sitting over here. So that details, increasing that space for a small detail of 20 centimeters had made the people wanted. It's like they feel like they have thought about us also, because what we generally do as designers, we kind of ignore those things when we are doing certain details, ornamentations and all things. We kind of forget those things, and this small detail have made them think that the user will also feel that instead of a chair, I have at least got this. So they have thought about us. Okay, in this space, you cannot provide a chair or any seating areas. So, what they did is instead of just an ornament, they made it more functional also. Okay, so what is required? That is what I'll leave you all with the question. What is required? Whether whatever you're designing should be taken care of the needs and behavior of the user, or you know, as a designers, we have to go move a step ahead and then cater to their needs, behavior, and then come up with our aesthetic or our creativity. So, yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Yeah, now it's time for questions.
I'll just stop sharing this. One second.
So if you have questions, you can ask now. I don't think anyone has question. Anushali, are you ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
So-
Fill the word of thanks.
Yes, ma'am. On behalf of Mohammed Satak AJ Academy of Architecture, a heartfelt thanks to architect Swetha for taking us through behavioral architecture. Very thought-provoking subject, much needed aspect of the time to understand the perception of people, particularly aspects as essential as safety, comfort, and aesthetics. Thank you so much, ma'am. I would also like to thank the management for arranging this lecture series. Special thanks to architect Anceline and architect Priti ma'am for organizing such a wonderful and interesting lecture. Finally, thank you, my fellow students, for being enthusiastic and attentive. Thank you all.
Thank you.